Okay.
Alrighty, we are ready to go in 3, 2. What comes after 2, John? 0. No wonder they call him the best colored man in the business. Hello again, everybody, with the Packers Savant. I'm Tom Pipines. We greet you again from Enters in Hartland, owned by Pat Enters, and what a team he has. We have a great team, and Mike, who's on the video, and Brent, our content producer. And we are Packer-centric. You can get us by Googling The Tom Pipines Show with John Dodds, or just go to tompipins.com. But we also are not oblivious to what's going on around us. The Brewers' hot start and then a little fade with some pitching concerns as we speak to you. We'll see what happens. The incredible Christian Yelich. And then, as John said, like a punch in the gut, Marquette seemingly with a chance to be a top 5 or 10 team next year. And then Sam Hauser and Joey Hauser say they are transferring out of the program. John, what happened?
It was the biggest gut punch as a kind of following the Marquette program.
Since 1979, right?
1972, actually.
Wow.
It was when Jim Chones left.
There you go.
Marquette was number 2 at the time, 22-0, and he left mid-season when Lou Carnesecca and the New York Nets gave him a tremendous offer, trying to beat the merger talks with the NBA.
The man with a sweater. Back to the Hausers.
Yep. The Hausers. What shocked me about this was from observing the program, I thought there was a very good relationship with the Hausers.
With Wojo?
With Wojo.
Steve Wojciechowski.
Wojo's first recruit really was Matt Held, but the second one was Sam Hauser. And he went up and saw him at an open gym in Stevens Point. And he made the comment that whenever Sam played, the whole team around him played better. And that was always the case. Sam Hauser played more minutes than just about anyone, first as a power forward, then as a small forward. And even Wojo felt that way about Joey Hauser, too. When Joey Hauser hit the freshman wall last year, there was some media that were asking Wojo, did you think of benching Joey? He's obviously having trouble. And Wojo made a comment that my team is much better when the Hausers are on the court. So he liked them. The other thing that just didn't make sense to me was Sam is 1 year away from his senior year. If he transfers, he's going to have to sit out a year because he's not a grad transfer. And he's going to be close to 24, I think, by the time he is eligible for the NBA draft. And the NBA scouts are looking at him. They like him, and they like his game. The other thing is if he would have hung on for one more year, I think there's a banner with his picture on it that would be up in the Fiserv Forum. So you hear stories about what happened. Was it Marcus Howard shooting too much, him not getting the ball?
And then him coming back, and in the wake of that is when this out-of-nowhere news came out about Sam and Joey Hauser.
Right. And so you try to figure out what it is. Now, Marcus Howard is probably considered a generational two-guard. I mean, he's once-in-a-generation type player, fantastic offensive shooter. Probably, odds on, he'll be All-American first team next year as a scorer. But even though he looks like a point guard at 5'11", he's not a point guard. He's a two-guard with some point guard skills. And last year, Marcus Howard, after the Greg Elliott injury, Marcus Howard had to take over point guard full-time. Marcus Howard is 19 years old. Andrew Rousey was a shooting guard. He took over point guard, and it took him the second semester of his senior year at age 23 to finally figure that out. Marquette runs the Golden State offense, 4 out, 1 in, and Sam Hauser is Draymond Green, and Marcus Howard is Steph Curry. And for some reason, it's not meshing. And before all this transpired, on last Thursday, we're taping this on a Saturday, I was at the basketball banquet and I was interviewing players. And I interviewed Ed Morrow, who was the transfer from Nebraska. And I said, boy, Ed, next year you're going to get Kobe McEwen, the 6'3" guard from Utah State. He sat out last year. He's looked great in practice. You're going to get Greg Elliott back, and you could possibly get Samir Torrance, a top 50 player from 2020 who might reclassify this year. You're going to be set at guards. And he said, that's going to be great because we don't have to stress Marcus Howard like we did this year. So he could see that too, that Marcus Howard was playing out of position. And sometimes I got the impression Marcus was not a very confident passer. He would throw maybe a lollipop, or he didn't have the confidence to throw a pass to complete even the most simple passes. Marquette would have 3 to 4 turnovers per game that were just mind-blowing how basic they were. But I got the impression that it was Marcus just not being comfortable at the point. And I think in crunch time, when the pressure is on, you're going to do something you feel most comfortable with. And with Marcus Howard, that's launching. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing I can think of that occurred.
Because as you have said, Marcus and the Howards are very good friends, are they not? Particularly Sam.
Very good friends. And then you get the internet stories about, and it gets really petty. And I went to a party and I heard this, or we used to have, some of my students would say, geez, Vander Blue came into our dorm and said he's transferring as a freshman. I said, the NCAA, you're dealing with teenagers or very young people. And it used to be 6 months. Now it's 12 months a year. There's mental and physical pressure the whole time. When I was at Marquette, I had a friend on the team who told me that he was transferring because he hated Hank Raymond's. Just couldn't stand it anymore. And I was really down. 2 weeks later at the basketball banquet, he gets up at the microphone and starts crying that Hank Raymond's was like a dad to him.
Which he was to many players.
Like many players.
Wonderful man.
So I just, when I hear stories, I don't believe them because there's such an emotional, mental, physical grind. It's a marathon.
Right.
And so, but I didn't hear anything. Looking back, maybe there were some keys or cues at post-game press conferences or something that I know Marcus said after, I think it was the Creighton loss, that he came out alone. He had 28 points that game, and Sam was dealing with some leg injuries that game, and he said, we're dealing with some issues in the locker room right now, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought it might have been treatment or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's just rank speculation. Now, the comparison I made last week to hear the Hausers leaving was like, you turn on TV and you see the Cathedral of Notre Dame and Paris burning down. That would be the analogy, but that's the analogy would be the second rating from ESPN preseason or the 5th rating in CBS. Now CBS says without the Hausers, Marquette's not in the top 30. But just like on Easter this weekend, they're still going to have Mass in Paris. They're still going to celebrate Easter even though the cathedral is burned down.
See, I love this. He's hanging around with me so much. He's getting like the reporters where there is some overstatement there, but you kind of get where you're coming from. So much has been out there, and as reporters you learn, when you know a little bit, you can be dangerous. You hear that Mr. Hauser made an ultimatum to Coach Wojo. It's either Marcus or my sons. And then you hear that he's trying to get Sam to stay, that some people believe Sam is not a kind of guy to take a step out like this, so something must not have been right. But it is only speculation. The bottom line is, can Marquette recover from this shocker in the short term? We're going to come back with this, ladies and gentlemen, in future podcasts because obviously much is going to happen. Where are they going to go? Speculation runs rampant. Will it be the Badgers or Virginia, perhaps even Michigan State? Who knows what will happen? But the impact on the program, can Wojo and company recover from this?
Absolutely. I think there's still a top 25 program. And the reason why is you have Marcus Howard, who's probably the best 2-guard returning in Division I. He can score 25. He can average 25 points a game for a season, but he's got 50 in him if you need him.
Yeah.
You have Kobe McEwen, who just transferred and sat out last year. He's a 6'3" guard, kind of a Wes Matthews type. I was asking Greg Elliott about him. And also, Greg Elliott is returning from his surgery on his thumb. And I was asking Greg Elliott about Kobe McEwen, and he said what the key about Kobe McEwen is he can score at all three levels. He can hit you from 3, he can post you up and pull up from 15, and he can take it to the hole with authority. When I talked to some members of the TBT alumni team that played last summer in that summer tournament, they would scrimmage the Marquette team. Dan Fitzgerald told me that the most impressive thing that he saw on Marquette's team
Former
was
Marquette assistant, right? Going back a little bit.
Yeah,
Dan Fitzgerald?
Dan Fitzgerald, he was a 6'9" point guard from Minnesota, too.
Oh, that Dan Fitzgerald. Okay.
That Dan Fitzgerald. Yeah. He said that Kobe McEwen could pass the ball from any point in the lane. He could drive the lane, and when the TBT converged on him, and they converged on him with Devontae Gardner, Jameel Wilson, Derek Wilson, some strength. He had the strength enough to pass anywhere in the half court, and that was an interesting skill. So he's coming, and with Elliott coming, you could put actually a 4-guard lineup out there. Plus you have Brendan Bailey, who is outstanding and outstanding prospect.
He's shown flashes, hasn't he? A little inconsistent, but very athletic and smooth.
Well, if you cut him in half, I think Bernard Toon is ready to come
Ooh,
out.
I love this.
So
Love this when you drop those.
Drop the
Al
old
McGuire-isms back in the day with Toon and
the old references.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta love it.
So I think they'll go 4-guard, and unlike the Buzz teams that had to go Lazar Hayward at center, you have Theo and you have
Theo
Ed
John
Morrow.
did improve, didn't he?
And Ed
Without
Morrow.
him, he's a defensive presence and a shot blocker, right? Morrow, maybe a poor man's Theo in that regard on defense, but pretty good underneath.
Well, and Ed Morrow last year, Ed Morrow had some surgery, abdominal surgery. He had to sit out from March 1st to September 1st. He didn't play. So his legs, he didn't have his legs until probably the lift off his legs, probably till mid-February. So he was a different player at the tail end of the year. Assuming he's healthy, knock on wood, he'll be a lot better. So
you're optimistic.
I'm optimistic, but for the life of me, I'm trying to figure out why, if you're the Hausers, the advantage of leaving. Because Sam's going to have to sit out a year because he's not a grad transfer. He's going to be 24 years old, close to when he goes to eligible for the NBA draft. And I'm very confident he'll be drafted. But Joey will probably have to sit out a year of eligibility because he used his redshirt year,
Yes.
and you get 5 years
So
unless
he
you
might
appeal.
lose a year, correct?
Right. He used one last year.
Right.
So that was his second year.
Right.
He'll sit out this year, and he'll have 2 more unless he appeals to the NCAA, and that's not a sure thing. So maybe they're thinking, I don't know if you had to get away, or maybe the hip surgery that Sam had last year, he needs some time off. Joey had serious ankle surgery last year performed by the foot surgeon of the Green Bay Packers. When Sherman, the defensive back, had knee surgery, he flew into Green Bay.
Richard Sherman. Okay.
He had surgery from the same doctor. So
Well, let's do this, if we may. Let's put a wrap on this
Yeah.
with final thoughts from you as it relates to the Hausers in Marquette. A mystery.
it's a mystery. It's a terrible loss. There's no way to spin that. But hopefully it's not irrevocable. I don't know if I assume what's going to happen is nobody will say anything through exams, because with the NCAA rules on graduation, you never want someone to transfer before exams. It's like, we're not going to allow you to transfer until you go to class and take your exams. We're going to keep our graduation rate up. I assume that's going to happen. But hopefully with some rest and cooler heads prevail, because the solution to me is adding Kobe McEwen and Greg Elliott to the guard mix. If you have Marcus Howard, instead of being the point guard, you have Marcus Howard playing the Steve Alford and the Bobby Knight offense where he's the two guard, the roving two guard, that would be the solution. But you have to be happy, and you're playing. When I was there 40 years ago, you could at least decompress with a 3 or 4 week rest after the season. Now it's take the weekend off, skill sessions start next Monday, you better be there, and you better start lifting weights with Todd Smith. That's how it is. These guys improve a lot, but it's a mental and physical grind, and if you have to be happy. So if you're not happy, definitely leave if you're not happy.
You bring up a great point, and I think as we leave, we can say two things for certain. There's much more to this than meets the eye. Something was not right relationally, and it is a setback for the Marquette program, but in due time, as John said, we'll find out a lot more. We'll find out where they will transfer. We'll find out what Marquette will be next year, in a year when, after a great start, disappointing season, embarrassed in the NCAA tournament, and people are looking for Wojo and company to take that next step. We'll take the next step by saying so long for now, but thanks for being with us. With the Packers Savant and Marquette as well, John Dodds, I'm Tom Pipines. Again, our video podcast comes to you from Enters in Hartland. We thank everyone involved, particularly Pat Enters. You can get us at, just Google The Tom Pippins Show with John Dodds or TomPippins.com. Thanks, everybody. Great to be with you again, as always. Thank you, guys. Some good stuff, John.
Hopefully I said enough.
Yeah.
The key is to be able to say something without saying anything. That's
what they said. That was the
key.
Just fill the time. That's it, Mike. Yeah.
Until Mike says.
Yeah, or like this.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going.
So Leroy is still at 10?
He said at 10. Yeah.
Okay.
So 9 minutes.
Yep.
I'm kind of nervous. Never met him before.
It looks out there like this place should be jammed. There's so many cars out there.
Yeah. I saw that even driving up.
I saw a Mustang out there.
Some
I'm
good
like, oh, I
background,
wonder if
buddy, and I
that's-
love your positive spin with it.